We just want to let people know that this was originally recorded on September 7th, 2022. We had different plans for this video. We wanted to show a lot of gameplay, but unfortunately, we just didn't have the time and we got into other projects. But we did eventually want to release it, so here it is. Soto and Chad here, and we want to ask everyone the question, and we're going to discuss this. Do graphics matter? Soto, how much do graphics matter in video games, in your opinion?
Oh, it's a question that I struggle with, and I've been struggling with recently. And I say this because, um, when I was much younger, I feel like it used to drive, whether I thought a game was cool or not. We've talked about this before in previous videos, where it's like, oh my God, you go to the arcade, and the arcade is where the graphics really are. They're much better than anything you can have at home, which is kind of funny because going to Fun Spot like we did, now I realize what the hell was I talking about? Some of these games' graphics are terrible. Um, but I started wondering to myself, like, does that matter to me? Especially when I was just playing the recent demo for Field Chronicle that is coming out. There were parts in it where I was like, this is a game that costs $60 and these graphics are trash. Well, some of them, they weren't trash, but they weren't up to the standards that I'm used to with your Horizon Zero Dawns or even like Last of Us and everything like that. I started wondering to myself, does that even matter? Because I have some games in my past that, I think are fantastic, that the graphics weren't exactly the best at. And so, I guess I don't really have an answer for that. I think in some certain games it does matter to me more than others. I mean, I still get a little bit of a wow factor, but I guess I don't. I fall on the side where graphics don't really matter. Like they're not the end all be all to me anymore, especially because everything looks good that comes out nowadays on the PS5. Everything's at 60 frames per second. Um, and they have the ray tracing and everything like that. So everything looks good. Um, it's just a matter of whether or not like it's an actual memorable gaming experience.
So, when I think about this question, my initial answer is always no. And I say that because I personally, even growing up, what, you know, there's other aspects to a video game that get me more. Story, gameplay, and these might be discussions for another time. But graphics, yes, I was amazed. I think about Mortal Kombat, the blood, the Genesis
Yeah.
code ripping out. And then I was like, okay, like right now, I am replaying Wild Arms PlayStation 1 game, obviously on the PS5. Those graphics nowadays suck. I mean, even for its time, probably not as good as Final Fantasy VII, but like you said,
Right.
there is a nostalgic feeling replaying this game, and I am enjoying it. Like, I don't care. It's bringing me back to when I first played it, and I was like, yes. Then I started thinking, but that's the point. It's nostalgic. I remembered the PlayStation 1, that time.
Yeah.
If I were to buy this game now, this was a PS5 release, I'd be kind of a little bit pissed. I'm like, wow, this really isn't much. Now, it would take a little bit for the story to get to me, but then I'm like thinking like how long I like they this is going to be a $60 game now compared to one
Hell no.
1997.
Hmm.
So, yeah, graphics don't matter, but we've evolved, from, simple, graphics as far as that to PS5. And I think for me, it depends on the game. And I have a few thoughts or a few examples. That's the word I'm looking for. A few
Hmm.
examples
Yeah.
of certain ones. Detroit Become Human. And I use that, and it's not just that. You can actually add in the Until Dawn, the Dark Pictures anthology we went through, all that stuff. But
It's a game
the
I broke up
lifelike
with.
games, when we eat Heavy Rain. But Detroit Become Human was the one that did it for me.
Yeah.
How lifelike these androids and people looked, how lifelike you were playing as real characters, because that's the point of the game. If this game came out around PS2 time and had or PS1, let me maybe a little bit more polygon, it would not have
Hmm.
worked. And I think that gave me the enjoyment. It gave me more of a sense of realism. So to me, games like that, the graphics do matter. I still have to enjoy it. I still have to be in and all in enthralled with the story, but if it did not have the realistic graphics, there's no way I would have enjoyed this game. So That's where I'm at. It's kind of tough because it always depends on the game or what I'm looking for the game, and we've evolved from polygons to now. So yeah, are they the most important? No, but I think they matter more to me now than when I was a kid, or more than I thought, because it does bring some kind of enjoyment. It puts me in the game. Is basically what I think I'm trying to say
Well,
there.
so my question for you is, are you like, do you like playing a game or do you like playing a movie? You know what I mean? Like, and can it be both? Because with something like Detroit Become Human, a lot of that immersion is the cinematic like feeling of the game, and that you're part of that cinematic universe, that you have some agency in that universe. There's a couple games that are out there actually like right now that I think you can actually pick and choose. It actually is like a fully recorded movie. But is that what it's becoming? And I say that because when the first Final Fantasy VII came out, which what the fuck was that on PS2 or PS1? I don't even remember.
PS1.
Oh my God. But like it had full motion video. And I was like, oh my God, I'm playing a movie. And yeah, of course there were the RPG elements and of course there was the management stuff, but is that what we're into? Is playing movies rather than playing games? Like as long as it looks good and like you said, the immersion quality of I mean, those are real actors that were being used in Detroit Become Human. Like those are actual actors that exist in real life. Um, is that what we're doing? Playing movies.
Possibly. So, and I know this is going to be a weird selection. Let's say The Last of Us for the
Hmm.
PS3. A lot of
Jesus
people,
Christ.
enjoyed it. A lot of people say that's another cinematic movie. Again, for its time, I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the gameplay. Now they just have the PS5 remake coming out. I don't know if it's officially out, but it's obviously the
Yes.
updated graphics and stuff like that. I have no inkling to buy that and to replay that for the better graphics. I had my enjoyment for, there's a lot of games where I play one and done. Like I had my enjoyment of Last of Us on the PlayStation 3, and I did enjoy it. And it's not one of
Hmm.
those games I go to replay. So to me, yes, I mean the graphics at that time for that PS3, they were good, you know, and maybe, I guess whether or not it's a cinematic game, yes. Um, though I know the horror aspects of it, you're not a fan of,
No,
but I
I'm
don't
not.
need. I'm not like, oh my god, PS5. I gotta play this. Everything. Ellie looks so much better. Joel looks so much better. I'm like, no, I have no inkling to go back. I want the next story. I want the continuation after Last of Us 2. So if there is a Last of Us 3, I am looking forward to that because I want to know where these characters go. But that's what got
Right.
me into this game. Maybe we have evolved. Maybe gaming as a whole has changed. Again, some people play for multiplayer reasons. The Call of Duties, Fortnite's, Rocket Leagues, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They just play online
Huge.
only games, and that is
Yeah.
fine. And I do like playing some of those games, but my bulk of enjoyment, as you, are RPGs. And for RPGs, what's that story? So
Exactly.
if it doesn't have a good graphics, but I'm into it, I don't care. My point being for Detroit Become Human, because that was a game where you felt the realism. We just played,
Yeah.
was it Man of Medan? Soon we'll get to Little Hope and the rest of that.
Yeah.
Being immersed as these characters is part of it. So, yeah, you know what? That's what they're doing for people, as long as people want to buy it and play it. And maybe that's how we involved, or me and you, or I don't know. I do not know how to answer that because, what do you think? And this is another example I had Death Stranding.
Hmm.
Norman Reedus looks amazing, but
Yeah.
if like the BTS, if the tar, and if the environment looked like shit, was not up to standard. So let's just say maybe the PS3 graphics. Let's just go that far back. Do you
Yeah.
think you would have enjoyed Death Stranding as much without feeling like you were in Norman Reedus' shoes?
Probably not. I mean, I think that the landscape and everything had a lot to do with the immersion. I mean, it just looked amazing. And so you were submerged in the universe. Although I will say that some of the gameplay sucked in Death Stranding as far as like I found like the action parts to be super tedious and annoying because I know people make fun of it for being a walking simulator, but
Yep.
walking around in that landscape like it was, which is just pretty much Iceland, and being lost in that delivering stuff was really fun and really cool. And I didn't mind the sneaking around the BTs part, but there were like some boss fights and shit like that that I was like, okay. Or like if you start into a fight with like one of the huge BTs, it just it felt lacking there. But to your point, would I have played that on the PS3? I mean, if it had cutscenes, I feel like people get pissed off about cutscenes. I still see memes about people being like, "Oh, that face when you can't skip a cutscene." I I'm like, okay, well, it's the cutscene is kind of like it's become like a treat for you as a gamer. Like if you get through this part, then you get a cutscene, and you get through this boss fight, then you get a cutscene, and you get through this, then you get a little bit more movie. Like Metal Gear Solid 4, which obviously another Hideo Kojima masterpiece outside of Death Stranding. I think it had like almost 2 hours of fucking cutscenes. Like there
Probably.
was one cutscene in Metal Gear Solid 4, whatever it was. It was like a 145-minute cutscene, I want to say, in Metal Gear Solid 4, where you're just sitting there and you're just watching it play out. But I don't mind that. Like I don't mind playing a movie like that. And if the gameplay is good, great. I look at a game like I think it's called Celeste, which I've heard nothing but good things about, and I have it for free on PlayStation Premium and everything, and I can play this game really whenever I want. But it's like pixelated and shit like that, and I
Hmm.
just like don't. And it's like a platformer, and it's like I believe all the great reviews about it, and I'm sure there's something to be said for it, but it's like I just have no interest, to take it any further than what that initial thing. So I guess yeah, for me, graphics do come into play for certain things about whether or not I'm probably going to pick something up. Um, I think I have to try a little bit harder to get into things that the graphics are not really up to snuff, or it's a little bit kind of out there. Um, like Kentucky Route Zero is a game that I have too that's kind of in that same vibe where it's like kind of retro-y, but I was just like, it didn't keep my attention, and maybe because I've been trained in that way, where it's like, where's the cutscene? Where's the movie part? Which I think God of War does really well, by the way. The new God of War, or new 2018 God of War, um, because that game is all one shot. There's never a cutaway or an edit towards a cutscene. It's all, even when there are cutscenes, it's still all done in that universe, and it's done really, really well. It does improve on the whole cinematic thing. So, because you'd have the games back in the day at PS1 where you'd have some really crappy graphics when you were playing the game, and then it would go to this crazy full motion video cutscene that looked nothing like the rest of the game. Parasite Eve reminds me of that a lot because Parasite Eve was like in that realm of just kind of shitty graphics, but then the cutscenes or the full motion video FMVs were like amazing. So
Yeah, because I remember buying the PlayStation 4, and the
mhm.
first game I got with it was Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
I had to think about that for a second. Now I enjoyed the first three, and yes, these are cinematic, more cinematic games. Everyone knows the opening train for um, sequence in Uncharted 2. But when I played it,
oh yeah,
you're on a boat, and I was actually amazed just by the water, by the waves. Like, holy shit, this looks so fucking good.
right.
And now I already know, but the story and the gameplay kept me hooked. The gameplay was very simple. Anyone could pick it up. It wasn't too hard to learn, which I sometimes like. You just kind of want to play a game. But I think the graphics is something that will draw you in. But
Yeah,
there needs to be something else to hold on to. Like if it was just like, wow, this is great to look at, and I'm having trouble, moving, jumping, I'm gonna get bored with that game, and it's over. To that being
yeah.
said, I want to bring up one game that we actually co-opted on the PlayStation 5, Operation Tango. And this is a co-op game that
We
we
did.
enjoyed. We fucking
I
enjoyed
enjoyed
this.
it. I
But the
laughed.
graphics was so there wasn't much. It was a very,
No, there
it was
wasn't.
meant to be that way. And there were scenes where, we're in a computer chip, or one of us was. I know, and there was so much fun to that game. So to that, I'm like, that was the co-op experience. So graphics isn't the most important thing. I think it's there. It will help you hold on to it. It helps give you the sense of realism in a game, which some of them
Yeah,
need. But overall, for me to enjoy a game, no, give me some, but I do expect a little bit more now on my PS5 than I did on my PS1. Because, if Final Fantasy VII came out now looking like it did then, I'm sorry, people, you can hate me on this. Everyone would shit on it for how much it looked. Now, those who actually played it, like, give it a chance, the story,
Yeah.
but we've all evolved into what we expect. So yeah, you need those graphics. You need something to hook me in. I don't care about the frames per second. I don't personally care about all that. Like I said, I don't need the upgrades.
I
But give me something
I do like
where
60 frames per second.
it is
It's
nice,
nice.
but it's not
It's
the end
nice.
all. It is not
No,
the end all.
it's
It's not
not.
what's
It's
going to be
not.
like. All right, this is going to draw me in. For me, it's a lot of other aspects of the games that will hold on to. Now again, if Detroit Become Human, it looked like PS2, PS3 polygon faces. I would not have enjoyed it as much. But being in those characters and being yes, is it cinematic? Yes, those are games I enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, I don't know what else to say. But that's my opinion. I don't think graphics is the most important thing, but they need to be there for the most part. You have to
Yeah.
have so much going elsewise to have shitty graphics, and get away with
Well,
it.
there's gotta be like some sort of, I don't know, like I think about a game like Undertale where like people talk about it all the time and it's all like pixels and everything like that, but there's like a really like dark undercurrent in that game, and the story is really good. But yeah, I agree with you. I think you're right. It's like, it's the thing that gets you through the door, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. And people say that the new Final Fantasy, has its problems. I think it's great. I mean, it's a little bit, the fighting system is hard to get into, but once you do, it's once you get the hang of it, it's kind of cool. But if once the all the new Final Fantasy VII games come out and it finishes that story, I really don't have any interest in going back and playing the original one. You know what I mean? After I've had like this fully realized, completely voiced, game and everything like that, where the fighting is much more. I mean, I still look for a little bit of a wow factor when I play a game. Like if I turn a game on and I'm like, wow, like within the first like few, that's still a dopamine hit that I like.
But here's the thing: you've played Final Fantasy, the original one,
Oh
multiple
yeah, many
times.
times.
You've pretty
Yeah.
much done everything there is to that game. So
Oh, 100%.
that you have that for a reason to not go back and play. Now, don't get me
Right.
wrong. I'm with you. Once I finish this Final Fantasy VII, the remake and the reunion and all, everything else coming out, whenever the third one does come out, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I don't know if I want to take the time to play the original again. And that's just me. Maybe. But that being said, the fact that we've played it and beat it multiple times, that could be a deciding factor. Whereas we only played it once after the remake, we might have been like, you know what, let's just play the original again. I don't like when Final Fantasy VIII they had a remaster come out. I instantly had to buy it because I'm like, oh my god, a little bit updated graphics because it was kind of shitty. Plus, I hadn't played in a while, so I had the re-enjoyment. I,
Right. Yeah.
so I don't know. It's tough, but no, I'm with you. I think the graphics definitely help. Obviously, all the characters look a lot better. The voicing is great. I don't care what anyone says about it. Remake was fucking awesome, and it did what it was supposed to
Remake
do.
was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So, yeah.
anyhow, that's what we think. That's our opinions if graphics matter in video games. Tell us what you think. Are graphics the most important thing to you? What else is important when you play a video game? Till next time, Soto and Chad here.
Later.